Hey, Skeeter Nation. We're here doing our TELPAS training this morning, and this is really the overview of TELPAS as well as our writing emphasis. There will be another training for our March 2nd testing, but this will cover what we need to begin this piece of TELPAS. All EL students in grades K through 12 are assessed annually, and this includes people that have declined services or what we call denials, even if students are on homebound or they're participating in some kind of remote instruction. And I know that that's very rare right now, but I know that some of you have been reaching out to students in that way. Even a foreign exchange student that's classified as EL, they all have to test. Now, who we don't test are monitored students. They're not currently classified as EL. All right, TELPAS domains. And if I need to back up for a second, those of you that are new to education in Texas, TELPAS is a test that we use in the state of Texas for our current ELs, our English language learners, that helps measure their growth in the English language. And we measure that in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Listening, speaking, and reading are all assessed on the computer electronically. And that will take place March 2nd. That training will happen at a later date. And majority of our students will be tested at that time. 11th graders will be involved in SAT day, or some of our 11th graders will, so they'll be pulled out the following week. Okay, that's just a preview. But this training is really more focused on the writing piece. And this is where students are responding to prompts that you generate and craft around what has taken place in your room. Writing can begin once the prompt has been submitted to 7 or after. So, and filing has to adhere to the schedule because everybody writes. We don't just signify that students are EL. Everyone writes. And we don't call it a TELPAS prompt, all those things. We'll get to some of that in a minute. All right, for each domain, TELPAS truly answers the question, how well is a student able to understand and use our English language during grade level instruction? And here are the different ratings, and here's how that looks. It's a big picture. The features of each level: beginning level, little or no English; intermediate, they have limited ability; simple language structures, high frequency vocabulary, routine text; advanced, it's more grade appropriate with second language acquisition support; and advanced high have very minimal support. And the results of TELPAS, they're used to help set the learning goals, keep parents and students aware of their progress, inform instructional planning for our programs, also reclassifications, report performance to the public. It's part of the big picture of evaluating our language learners, English language learners, excuse me. And here are the rating process and the writing collections. There's a few more details on that. Okay, here's what we can use. We can use writing assigned after February 7th, on or after February 7th, and that would be today forward. All MHS students will write in all classes in this window. That's every class. I just need to sit there for a second because sometimes we, as individuals, think of our class and go, well, she's not talking about me. No, we're talking about every single class. All students need to write. And really, it's a good practice for our kids anyway, even if you're in athletics. Some of our best responses, I will say, have come from our soccer programs, and even softball and volleyball. Everybody submits. Everybody submits. And students have something to say. The thing that we really have to work on in our classes is crafting a prompt that reflects something that can be related to what's going on in our class or what we've discussed or talked about that students want to engage in and write about and have a response in. Students can submit their writings electronically, but The samples of current ELs must be printed and filed. A list of the current ELs was emailed with this training. So remember, everybody writes, but you pull the samples of those students that are current ELs, and you will file them as designated that we've already shared in the email, and it's also in this training. Collections have to be compiled for every EL. You're just doing the piece that helps provide the samples. We have to have a minimum of 5 samples that are good. And so we need to make sure, and remember, excuse my ringer, here's the things that we have to contain: at least 1 that's past tense narrative, and at least 2 that are writing samples from academic, math, science, or social studies. So TELPAS writing samples, they need to be created as secure documents. They're part of our annual testing security, which we completed way back in the fall. But it's really, really important that we remember we have to have 5 quality samples. Most students have 8 classes. Some have early release. Some are in a work program. So it's important that we have students writing in every class that they're in, so that we have enough viable samples that are within the guidelines to use in these collections. All right. Teachers, we need you to submit your prompts no later than February 10th, and that's done through your training verification form. Prompts can be shared within a subject, that's fine, but each teacher must submit the prompts that they will use in their class. It's just part of the verification form. It's just a piece of it. You know, you put your name in it, put your subject in it, put your prompt in it. And if you need help, email me or email Erin Van Sickle. One of us would be happy to help you, but make sure you have an idea of what you want to say. Maybe it's something that you just want to run by us, and those kind of things. Math, science, history, and foreign language, your prompt should reflect the current learning and your standards. All other prompts, including ELA, should result in a past tense narrative. So it's really more reflective for our kids. MHS students, you can write as soon as prompts have been submitted. And remember, this can be as early as today. All samples need to include the student first and last name, date, student ID, teacher name, subject, and prompts, as well as the title. Whether they are submitted to a slide or handwritten, that is okay. Either one is fine. But I did include a copy of the slide. Looks like this. And when students use this slide, it does not, go back. It does not autocorrect. So if you're going to do it electronically, you need to use this slide. You can just make a copy of it and share it, and then have students submit on their own copy. But again, you'll only print the ones of our current ELs. Or if they're handwritten, everyone turns in a handwritten piece. You just need to make sure to submit the original and file it. So prompts can be posted as standalone assignments in the Google Classroom for all of our students, or students can write on physical paper copies. Remember, the samples of all current, again, I cannot stress this enough, ELs must be printed and filed to submit electronically. I know that's redundant because I keep saying it. And then here is the schedule that is listed. It was also emailed in the email that contained this training, as well as a previous email, the schedule for filing. And you will file an L109. We'll be here 8 to 4, some days 4:30. If you need to make other arrangements outside of that time, please just let me know. I'm willing to help. Just let me know. Okay, papers not to include. Papers that contain copied language. So you need to actually kind of read through the response. And if you can tell it's been copied language, you're just going to have to tell the student, hey, we really need your original thoughts. I'm going to need you to go ahead and do this again. But we're not going to single out our LEP students and have them do this as their own assignment. Remember, it's something everybody's doing, but you can correct. Papers in which the student relies heavily on a dictionary thesaurus. Notice that says heavily. So if a student needs a little support, occasional instructional support or scaffolding, that's okay. So it's also obvious, don't use a word bank that they have to include certain words, but you can support them in different ways. Papers showing teacher comments and corrections, we can't include those. Papers where students are heavily relying, like I said, on word walls, verb banks, spelling lists, you need to read through it. You can tell, okay? You can tell. Worksheets, question and answer, that's not a response to a prompt. Papers that have been polished through editing from peers, please do not include those. Papers written primarily in the student's native language. So let me just stop right there. If a student has come to us from another country and they've only been here just a few weeks, even a month, can you imagine what your writing sample would look like if you were asked to do that in another country? There is a case in which you will see some reliance heavily on that language, but it's in rare occasions. Okay, also, don't include papers that are brief, incomplete, or rushed. Students truly are capable of expressing themselves in English in a detailed, extended way, should do so. And don't include brief responses where somebody didn't really answer the question or they didn't really extend properly. It's okay to have them correct and redo, just like we would in any other case. They misunderstood the assignment. And also just kind of consider where a student is proficiency-wise and those descriptors that we talked about earlier, whether they're beginning, intermediate, advanced, or advanced high. You may not be rating them, but you can kind of gauge where a student lies. And some of you may realize that students are more confident in writing than they are speaking. There are students that you know they know English, but it's limited. But when they have the freedom to write, you're going to learn a lot of things about students. Okay, this is just one more reiteration from the district. TELPAS writing samples should come from 100% authentic classroom experiences and instruction. And this is just one more thing. Here's what they are. Here's what they are not. I do want to make note down here where it says they are not timed. Okay. And over here it says they are not timed. And that's because that means we don't want to say you have 15 minutes to complete this assignment, because the result is going to be a brief, incomplete, or rushed sample. But it is okay to provide like 45 minutes or the end of the classroom. It is okay in that way to craft a time. It is not okay to say, this is a timed writing. You have 15 minutes to complete this. You have 20 minutes to complete this. We need them to gauge and have enough information to be able to do about 3/4 to a page of response written, typed. That might look a little bit different, but please, please, please be aware of that. Okay, this is the end of our training. So what we need you to do is make sure you watch the video, make sure you look over the list of ELs, and then go to the training verification form, fill it out, and your training will be complete. Thanks, and have a great day.